for checking out our channel. Here's going to be hopefully a repair video on this low bar. This is a Gallagher low bar for weighing. Well, you can usually weigh whatever you want with it. These are mostly used in the livestock industry, usually going in the alleyway leading up to your squeeze chute, and they're made to be bolted up to that. Gallagher sells this aluminum platform, like a diamond plated one, and there's two bars, one at the front, one at the back. And the animal steps on. These connect into a weigh scale display, and it displays the weight. Basically glorifies scale, just to weigh your animals and see how much they weigh. And they got other scales, indicators that would do more, give you more data points. We can do average daily gains. You can EID tag readers, to match up things. You can, some of them, the fancy ones, you can type in data points of in your sessions. You can put in like who the mom was, who the dad was, all sorts of stuff, how old they are, all sorts of stuff. So, but the issue with this one, I got both bars here. Supposedly this is the bar that's giving them the trouble. It's giving them, I think what it's doing, if I remember right, the word 0 pops up on the screen, but if you put any pressure on it, stand on it, try to weigh something with it, it doesn't show any kind of weight. So there's 1 to 3 things that can cause that. Sometimes maybe 4 things, but their battery's basically shot in this thing. They say they bought this in 2006. This is their scale. I got both bars here with me. They think this is the bar that's giving them the problem. So I'm just going to turn it on to manual mode. We are going to replace the battery in this unit at some point, probably tomorrow or the next day, whenever that battery gets here. Because it said it works fine until you unplug it and it shuts off. Because it's got a almost 20-year-old battery in it. The battery's shot, so they want to put a new battery in it so they don't have to worry about any of that stuff. So I'm going to plug in the whatever you call it, the connector off the low bar cable. And what it should do, it should go to 0, which it does. That's a good sign. So how these Gallagher scales work is there's an electrical signal coming from the load cells, 2 load cells in each bar, one over here, one over there, about the size of a little brick. And they've got a strain gauge in there and transducers and things that, as they flex, they're a single beam load cell. And as they flex a little bit, that bends a strain gauge, and that sends a signal, small voltage, out of themselves, and it goes up the cable and into the scale, and the scale deciphers it through their programming and stuff like a small computer, and takes that signal and turns it into a weight display. If we plugged it in and it showed just dashes across the screen, that means it's not recognizing that there's something plugged in here, because there's a little resistor that Gallagher and a lot of brands use. Tru-Test uses resistors, different sizes, different ones. They're not universal. And it goes inside the connector, and they use that resistor as a signal to tell the scale what model of low bar am I talking to. Since they got 2 or 3 different model low bars or whatever, that needs to know which one am I talking to. So if we plug this in and it showed just the dashes across the screen, even though this was plugged in, that would mean that the resistor is most likely bad. And if it plugs it in and it goes to 0, well, it knows that there's something plugged into it now. So the resistor part is good. But if we put some weight on there, I'm just gonna put my hand on there and just put some pressure down. It should have changed a little bit, and we get nothing. No numbers of any kind of weight changing at all. And the other low bar, they said if you hook it up, it weighs just fine. So they know the scale itself's fine, but there's a problem somewhere with the low bar. So what's going on is whatever signal that these load cells are putting out is not making it to here to get to the indicator. So a problem is either inside the connector, inside the cable somewhere, or maybe worst case, one or both them load cells in there have got a problem. So There's not a one size fits all. Oh yeah, it's this thing every single time. No, you got to test things out. You can't assume, because if we do the repair in this video, oh, it's the same thing as well with mine. Well, the symptom is maybe the same, but the reason why it's bad could be completely different. So the easiest another thing we're going to run into, and this is just how Gallagher builds their stuff to try to help the situation out, is when they assemble these things and build them and everything in the factory, when they put these connectors on the cable, they're epoxy filled. They glue these together. There's three parts to it. There's the bottom part comes off no problem, but the center part here and this upper part here are twisted together in the middle, and they epoxy fill these things full of resin to try to help keep these contacts waterproofed and keep them from coming loose on accident. And you cannot get them apart. If they're a factory one that they put on there, you cannot pull them apart. You'll break the connector, because they're like, the epoxy is like a rock. It does not budge at all. And so you'll end up breaking the connector trying to pull these apart. So now what we got to do is, I'm going to trace, the first easy thing to do is this, I'm going to run my hand across the cable as I pull it through. I'm going to feel for any like smashed spots or chewed spots. This is an older bar. It's from 2006. But the nice thing is, whether it's from 2001 or 1999, 2015, 2025, all the parts are interchangeable between an old bar of Gallagher and the current ones. There's no real change. See, there's a funny little spot right there. It's kind of kinked right there, but that might have just been from being wrapped around around this. But that could be an issue. You don't know. And I don't feel any more bad spots as it goes into the bar itself. So now, what we have to do is we need to take the foot plate off. Let's see, how do I want to do this? Let me ponder my thought for a second. If I take this all apart, cut things apart, I need to be able to put it all back together. And there's an easy way, and there's a more pain in the neck way. And I want to try to go the easy way first before I go the pain in the neck way when we go to put this wiring back together inside here in this little box. There's a little potted junction box right there. It looks like it's been replaced at some point in time, because it's not solid black epoxy. It's the Gallagher usually uses. It's kind of a see-through yellow looking, but it could be solid green. But I think this might have been worked on at some point in time. Maybe not the load cells, maybe they put a new cable on it or something, I don't know. So let me pause the video, let me look for a couple things, and then I'll be back on here with you. Okay, well, we might be going the easy route, because if I didn't have one of these little potted epoxy boxes, I call it, that Gallagher supplies for repairs on these things, we'd have to cut and splice and solder and heat shrink the wires back together, and it's a doable job. It's just a pain in the neck job. Okay, so now what I need, it's fallen here, I need cheater bar, breaker bar, whatever, which I need to find that. I don't use it all that often, so I don't know what heck to put it at. Got this socket here, but this is not what I want to use. You can break them loose with a socket, but man, it's a little bit more of a chore, because you don't have the they're pretty tight. I don't want to come out of there. Oh, that one was nice and loose. So sometimes they're in there real tight, but whoever put these back together didn't, when they worked on it at some point in time, didn't, or they put their not the dielectric grease, but they sometimes will put like a coating anti-seize or something like that on there. But usually you've got to use a cheater bar, breaker bar, or a socket with a piece of pipe on it. Give yourself some leverage here. So I'm going to take all these loose. Oh. And then I use a probably could have broke these loose with my impact, but I got a small powered impact. I don't have a big heavy duty one. This little one here, but for most of the jobs that I do, this would do fine. I don't need a big DeWalt or an air powered deal. Just spin them out the rest of the way. There's actually 16 bolts to hold this thing all together, and all 16 of them are the same. And then there's not a right or left with these things. You can actually flip this around and put it back on like that. There's some washers that are still in there. Dump those out. Okay. Yeah, there's some oil, WD-40 penetrating oil that was between the bar, the foot plate they call it, and these load cells. Okay, now we need to take a pair of channel locks and loosen this. Now this may be a factory one. This may be never been worked on, because this nut on here has got that nylon insert that keeps it from backing out. And that's what the factory uses. Gallagher uses, when I've seen some of their bars come in for repair that they've done in the past, they just put a regular nut on there, which is fine. I don't see how it would back out anyways. I've never seen one back out. Now we got to use a screwdriver, flat screwdriver on the ends. They call this the rat trap. This is the old one, the old metal ones. The later ones I use a plastic piece, probably save on cost. All it does, they call it the rat trap. All it does is hide these wires to try to keep the mice from getting in there. Now we need a small or a long flat screwdriver. I use this one here as a metal rod that goes all the way through it, part of the shank here, and it's a metal back there, because we need a long one, because a short standards like will come up to here and you got a weird angle at it. You're driving more into the bar than you are the side of it. But actually we might not need usually I'll take as a hammer or like the small sledge, beat it on the back side of the screwdriver here. I just want to get underneath there. I want to lift this metal tab up. This is holding our wires down. Okay, I don't know if this has ever been worked on by Gallagher or not. Kind of hard to say. I'll put this somewhere I don't freaking lose it. Put it right there. Alright, so now what I want to do is I'm going to cut it. There's usually a kink right here. That's pretty normal. I usually like to cut past the kink. And then I will cut it right there. Now this is junk. You can't really use this. This is the epoxy that's in here, same as inside that connector. You can see it's hard as a rock. There's no way you're going to get that connector apart if it's a factory one. Now when I put them on there, I think Gallagher themselves here in the States, where they work on stuff occasionally, they don't epoxy them. I've never epoxied one back together. I screw it back together, because if you ever have to go in there to fix it, it makes it easier, because you can just take it apart and fix the connector versus having to cut it off, put a new one on. So now what I want to do is get the end of the connector here, and I need a long piece of wire, not a long, but a piece of wire. Preferably a solid core wire, small gauge. This is, I think, 22 gauge wire, or 22 or 24. I don't know. I think it's 22 gauge, because we need to test continuity between the cable and the connector itself, to make sure that our cable's good and that everything is connected on the inside of the connector. Now we know the resistor is fine, because it gave us the 0 pound reading, but we need to check the continuity between pins and these wires. We'll need a multimeter for that. Put on continuity. We will test the cells. I mean, it doesn't take no time at all to check the cells out electrically, see if they're good. So now we're going to put our meter on continuity, and if the connection's good, should beep. So there's pins 1 through 6 on the outside, and 7 is your center pin. Pin whatever 5 and 7 is the resistor. Pins 1 through 4 is our wires, and then pin 6 not used, it's just there. So we're going to go to pin 1, shove it down in there, and then we're going to take our cord, and pin 1 is red, should beep. It's good. Now, one thing I sometimes do is I will make sure there's not a short between anything, is I will leave my meter on the wire going into the plug. Make sure that wire's all the way down in there. We'll touch all the other wires, they should not beep. That's good. So now we'll go to pin 2. That's black. So red, green, and white should not pulse. Black should. Black's good. And we'll go to pin 3. Come on, get in there. That is green. So red, white, and black should not beep. Green should. That's good. So now we'll go to pin 4. That should be our white wire. So red, green, black did not pulse, and the white should pulse. Ooh. Okay. Well, our cable's good. That was surprising. I thought we were going to have a connector issue, or a broken wire inside the connector. Okay, well, let's dig deeper, shall we? We're going to test these anyway, so now we really got to test them. And these are the red load cells. Gallagher used the red load cells from about 1999 or 2000 all the way to about 2007-ish range, and they went to a green one. Looked just like them, but green. They only used those for about, I don't know, 2 or 3 years, whatever it was, from like 2007 to like 2010 or 11 or whatever it was. And they came out with the current looking ones, kind of an orangey yellow, more orange and yellow colored load cell, and those have been basically the same ever since. They've tweaked the manufacturing process of them a little bit here and there, but they basically cosmetically look the same than what, from 2010 or 11 to today. Alright, so now we have to do an ohms reading, and I don't know the numbers, what they're supposed to be off the top of my head, but I know them when I see them, if they're good or not. So that's, sorry. So I'm going to go red to black first. That's bad. That's a bad number. So I'm not even going to check the other combination. So that load cell there is bad. Let me get a marker and I'll put an X on it. Now I'm going to go red to black on this one. That's a good number. It should be 400 something. That was reading almost 700,000 ohms. Or 0.700 and something, whatever it was, I don't remember now. So that's a good number. So now we'll go red to blue. That's good. That's good. Probably have a bad load cell. These numbers really don't matter as long as they match, which they do. And I can't remember what this number is until I see it. It's like 450 or something like that. 350. Yeah. Okay, so we have one bad load cell and one good cell. Alright, see if I can pull this load cell out with this. Nope. Nope, ain't coming out. This has probably never been changed, so this might fight us. Oh. I usually twist them a few turns. Oh, God damn it. Ugh. So the nice how about having a breaker bar is you can get them out a little easier. The big squeegee bars, you'll never get them with this unless you have something holding this bar down, or have someone lay the weight on it so you can use both hands to push. Because if you don't, the whole thing wants to lift off the table as you twist on it. But this one I'm doing holding the bar, one hand the other way, and then a little wobble. Okay. I'll buzz them out the rest of the way with this. Okay. So that load cell's bad. See, all of the transducers and things are underneath this. There's a seal all the way around here, and all the transducers and all the doodads are under here. And here's the age of it. Look at this. This is a 2002. Wow. 2002. He said they bought it in 2006. But this is 2002, so maybe it sat on the shelf for a while. Alright, well, let me grab another load cell. Alright, here's what the new load cells look like. They say they look almost identical. I mean, they are identical, but the color's different, of course. I went to that orange one. This is a 2022 load cell, but there's no difference between a 2020 and 2019 or 2025 or 2017. I think 2016 or 17 or whatever it was the last year that they made any manufacturing changes to their load cells. So there's no real big difference between this one and the one that's 5 years old when it comes to brand new. Okay, so we need to put the white part down, and the cord cable goes at this side. Now, here's the thing that I've had people go to bring. Sometimes people send me just the load cells and the cable out of their bar, and they go to put them back in, and they can't get the foot plate to go on. And what happens is you got to get both of these cells exactly the same spacing, or you have to be parallel, perpendicular, whatever it is, parallel. And how you do that is you look at the edge of this and the edge of this, and make sure that they're parallel exactly. Because if you get this one off just a little bit, you get this one up just a little bit, when you go put the foot plate on there, that has no give at all. Those holes and that bar are locked into what shape they are on that big foot plate that ran across here. So if this one's like up here, well, this hole's down just a little bit and nothing lines up. So you got to get these things spot on. I mean, there's a little wiggle room to it, but you have to, not a lot. Come on, what is going on here? All right, this is what I like to do. Let me get my, there's some oil I like to put on here, but I don't know where it's at, so we'll put some some anti-seize down here at the bottom side of the threads, because that's what's making contact down here. These aren't very rusty, so I wouldn't think this would be a real big issue, but what the hell, we'll do it anyways, because it's a rough environment these low bars sit in, because there's muck and gunk and manure and urine coming off the animals that can sometimes leak down and get into the load cells and rust and corrode things up. Come on, what am I messing up on? Yeah. Come on, I can't freaking see the right there. Alright, so what I do is as I tighten them down, do it slowly, and I close one eye and really focus in on this edge and this edge here and make sure that they're basically parallel to each other. You still have a little wiggle room in there since he tightened them all the way up. I hold this bar tight because I don't want to turn a little bit as I tighten it down. So I try to hold it nice and tight. I do kind of a crisscross X pattern when I tighten them down. Alright, so now just to make sure that they're in there snug, and just to make sure. Don't make them super tight, just firm and snug. Good enough. Okay. Tuck the wire down like this. Now we got to wire these back up. There's so much excess, so we don't need all this on there. So we're going to cut it back to about there. That's, 'cause we can always fold it down and hide some of it. Alright, where's my wire strippers? So we're going to make about that far right there. And we're going to peel off about that much of the insulation. There's millivolts of signal coming through these wires. They don't have to. They don't need to be great big gauge wires. So now we need to wire the white ones together, the red and the black, and this one. See, this one's got green, and the old load cells have blue. Well, blue and green are the electrical wise is the same thing. But I always make sure that my wires aren't underneath any other wire, crisscrossing, because you only have so much room when you're working with some of the stuff. When you put it back in there, you go to put it inside the little epoxy box. You want as much give as you can. So you have a little bit of play with stuff, and so see that black wire needs to go over to this one, but see it's underneath that red one, so we'll pull it out from underneath. Okay, so these are all wired up. Okay, now we'll take the yellow cable. See, in the later ones, I don't know when they did, about 2012 or something like that, they started using they put a metal spring all the way around the yellow cable. The earlier alleyway low bars did not have that, and later ones they did. And I think the replacement cables that Gallagher sells, they come with the metal spring already wrapped around them. Okay, so now same things we did before. Take the black one, wrap on the black wire, red to red, and so on. The white one will pull down underneath, because it was underneath the green one, and I said you want to keep these things from being tangled up. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to temporarily take this foot plate and we're going to put, make sure the holes line up. They look like they're going to line up perfect way you want them. Put one in each each end. I'll get this one kind of half started. Flip it back over. And I'm going to hook it to the skid. I want to make sure these wires aren't touching each other. We're going to put some connections on there to keep them from touching each other permanently once we get everything set up. Let me, okay, the battery charger's plugged into the scale head. So, lay it there. We'll grab the other end of the scale. Oops, a little bit tangled up here. Now we'll turn it on. Let's do like we did before. So nothing's on there, which is correct. That's on there. Look at that. See? Put some pressure on there. Give us numbers. So I think we're in good shape. So wiggle the cable around right here. Make sure we're not getting any numbers bouncing around the weights, which we aren't. So I think we're in good shape. So now we just need to put it all back together. We need to get that potted box out and epoxy fill that box, which I think I got some epoxy on here somewhere. Not at the hardware store and pick up a tube. Because epoxy is the longest part of the process. I mean, it's not like you have to sit there and watch it. It's like watching paint dry. You just want to get it all filled up, set it to the side, let this little chemical reaction do its thing. We need to take this off. So I don't need that on right now. Because we're going to have to put the potted box and everything inside here. But we're going to take all these bolts, the washers and stuff. We're going to stick them down inside here so we don't lose them. And what I also like to do, just because you never know when the next thing you might see this come in for repair. Put that foot plate down there. Take a permanent marker. I'm going to put down, write the word new. I'm going to put April 2025. When that was new. And I'll go over here on this one, put tested to specs. April 2025. So that way we can kind of keep tabs on it. Or if somebody else ever works on it, I was like, well, they did to it last time. Well, last year or last time they put a load cell in it. One thing I didn't buy, I bought some supplies here the other day, got them all in, and I forgot to order something. So what we're going to do is we're going to use butt connectors. They make these other things called dolphin pin connectors, what their actual name is. But I'm going to trim off a little bit of this. Don't need that much of it exposed, like that. And I always go, to save a little space, I cut off one end of the hollow part where there's no metal on a butt connector. And shove it in the other end. And this keep them together, and it keeps them from touching each other when you go to put them back in that potted box. And then you just crimp it down to hold it on there. Because you're limited space inside that little potted box. There's that. And I take a zip tie to keep them all together and even. When we go to put them in that potted box, you take a zip tie and get all the everything even across there. Snug it up so it's even and get down near the bottom. There we go. Cut off the tail. Oh, my tail off. And now we take this little box here. We need a drill. So we're going to take that bit here. Should work. I want to go about dead center of it. Don't push too hard, you'll crack it. Let the bit do its job while it's chewing there. So I'm going to go about dead center. And we have a jig I made up years ago. Took an old case off of a Zariba unit that was junk. I made a little jig for it. Gallagher probably did something very similar. I've got a couple other jigs that I use off of other cases, but this was going to go on here. And I need a bolt and a nut. There's the bolt. Where's the nut? I think it's this one right here. Try it out and see. Yep, that's it. Okay, we're going to put it right there. That's perfect. I'll hold the front inside. Put the nut on the back side here. Snug it down tight. And I gotta look and see if I've got any epoxy. If I don't, I need to go buy some. I'm pretty certain I've got a tube around here somewhere. But what we got to do is we take these wires, we put them in a little junction box, push all the way down. You take this little clamp here that keeps it from wanting to come back up. Basically test fit it, like, yep, looks good. And then you peel it back like that. You fill it full of the 2-part epoxy. It takes a full tube of 2-part epoxy, squirt it in there, and you mix the hell out of it really, really good. And then you slowly, lower back in there. A lot of that epoxy is like a liquidy type. It self-levels. You put in there, levels out, and you move this off to the side for 2-3 hours while the epoxy cures and hardens up. So that's the only thing I think I got to do now is find some epoxy, which I'm sure I've got some around here. I just don't see it just sitting right here handy, so I probably got to go search around here somewhere. Oh, wait a minute. The old Mr. GB Weld. It doesn't matter what brand, as long as it's a 2-part epoxy. This just happens to be what I picked up that day. Come on, get off there. Alright, so there's usually a stir stick with this stuff, and I don't see the freaking stick with it. It was just laying there. Okay, so now, well, I'll just have to sacrifice temporarily, and I'll wipe it all off. I got a small flat screwdriver here. And we're just going to squeeze it in there. I just go about halfway and flip it around. And take the full tube. And see, it's yellow and mixed up, turns kind of clearish. Opaque yellow looking white. But all the way down the very, very bottom of it, all the way down there, and mix the hell out of it. Because you don't want any spot that's not mixed, because then it may not solidify and then things can come loose, you know, come out of this little box. And then we'll wipe off the excess. Also, this stuff stinks because it is a chemical. Smells like a skunk. I'll wipe the rest of that off here in a little bit. And you take this and you just lower it back in. And that one's still sticking up a little bit, so we just take our screwdriver and just kind of shove it in there. Paper towel. See, it didn't even hurt the thing. Now I'll just carry this over just like this and set it down somewhere, because that stuff's pretty liquidy. As you tilt it over, it wants to slosh to one side or the other. And this says 5-minute quick set. It takes longer than that, especially when you use a full tube. It takes like, you could probably move it around in like 30 minutes, moving around safe without moving around, you know, sloshing around. But to be fully cured, where you can take that nut loose and without the whole bolt spinning on you, it takes about 2-3 hours on the safe side, maybe an hour. But I always wait a couple hours, 3 hours before I start jacking with anything. So I just take this and I just put off the side and go do something else for a while, working some other stuff. So, but this one's basically done. I got to call the customer up. I got to give them a quote on getting the battery changed out, which I have a battery en route. Should be here tomorrow, the next day, I guess. Got the shipping alert, so it's on its way here. And then, of course, by then, this bar will be all done back together. So, but thanks for watching our video here and watching me work on something. This is a little bit different of a repair than we normally do, but I like working on the Gallagher scales. Low bars are fun. Not too complicated. Once you do enough of them, you kind of learn tricks of the trade, how to do it faster and get better at it. But cattlescalerepair.com is our website, and fencerfixer.com is our other website. But we work on mostly Gallagher and Tru-Test when it comes to the low bar. There's some other brands out there, some Chinese stuff out there we don't really jack with too much. And then they've got, you know, Disassembly and other models. But those are usually, you got to send those to authorized repair place. But anyways, thanks for checking us out. Till next time, see you later on.